Hello everyone, welcome back to our modifier tutorial series. Today, I will show you how to work with the denture module and also how to combine it with other modules for removable or fixed dentures. Our project is already created with the models imported, so we can start right away with the modifier software. As always, we choose our user and our license package. Then, if the models are not aligned, like in this case, we click on No. And we start right away with the alignment process. For this case, we choose the edentulous ghost models, and we start aligning our models, focusing on the mucobuccal fold and the hamelli. We also make sure the central lines align. There's an additional feature in the modifier, which is move lower scans separately. If we activate that, we have the possibility to move the lower jaw individually from the upper. This is very useful if you have no fixed relation between upper and lower established, and you would like to produce a provisional relation for a first try denture. Our alignment is done, so we activate the plaster plane and continue with save. We jump right into the tooth placement mode, and we're going to immediately start with our setup. Go to the prostheses library and choose a tooth shape which fits the patient. Activate the plaster plane for scaling and positioning of the teeth. As you all know, we have our tooth libraries always with an original or a braided, incisal, and occlusal third. The denture libraries also exist with single posterior elements and unified posterior teeth for easier handling, and we are going to use the latter. Click on OK, and now we have the possibility to modify our setup. I would always advise doing most of it with the plaster plane, since with the plane, we have a lot of control. We can move the whole setup up and down, or we can move it further in and further out. But the midline of our setup is always protected as long as the plane function stays active. The inclination can also be changed via control and scroll, so we can handle our curve very easily. If we click on the 3 points in the corner, below the group window, we have the chance to activate the multi-view. The multi-view can give us a helping hand during positioning and designing our cases, since you get predefined viewpoints of your situation with individual group windows, while you always have an active window where you can freely rotate. So if we change something about our setup, we will see it is going to be changed in all the other windows as well. We can also switch between different layouts. Then, as mentioned in the tooth library video, our denture teeth are already being loaded in occlusion with the group balance in mind. To close the multi-view, we want to go back down to the right and once again click on the 3 points. Okay, let's say we are happy with our teeth placement, so we can go next and go right into the denture module. The first step of the module is to create a blockout model. I always start with the insert direction, since this is also important for the nesting later, so it knows in which angle the milling machine needs to mill out the inner part of the denture base. We do not want to block out the undercuts and leave the bottom offset and tool diameter on default. Once done, we can add or remove offset via a brush tool. So, for example, for the post dam or other areas of the model. We set a value, let's say 0.8, and apply. And this area has now been reduced. After that, we can go to modeling to smooth out the transition. Then we go back to blockout and generate it for the lower jaw. So we set our insert direction and then click on Apply. Once that is done, we can go next. Now we draw the margin line for the denture. So let's start clicking, and if necessary, make the teeth a little bit more transparent. Then we can always modify our points and make sure they are right where we want them. If the line is yellow, that means the software has an issue with the point position, so we move them until it gets green. Okay, now let's focus on the parameters to our left. First, we have the gingiva gap, which defines the space between the denture and the blockout model. This correlates with the margin gap, which dictates how much gap there is between the margin of the denture and the blockout model. Then we have the gingiva thickness, so the overall thickness of the denture base that is going to be generated. We have the smoothing level, which I will show you in a second, and the minimum thickness, of course. And then we can also influence the thickness of our margin area and the papilla thickness. We can also ignore the gingival margin of our teeth altogether, seen as this red line that you see around the library teeth, creating a uniform shell. In addition, we could also add another brush tool for a stop or offset area. So let's run our generation with those parameters. Once done, we can have a look how the smoothing parameter affects the generated tissue. We switch at the bottom left to lower jaw and create our denture base for that as well. After we have done that, we can go into the free modeling and start designing our gingiva. Now, since I respect your time, I will make a cut for the following free modeling sequence. This took me roughly 25 minutes. I've maybe exaggerated a little bit and could have also done it in 5, but I like to do it and no one can stop me. We click on Next and come to the important part, the connection type between teeth and denture base. I usually always start by defining an insert direction which more or less incorporates all our teeth, especially if we want to create unified elements. We will do the same for the lower and click on Apply. Okay, now let's focus on the 3 connection types. First, we have dies. With that, we can generate thimbles for our denture base. At the top, you will always find the minimum thickness for our base and the allowed gap between base and teeth. Next, there are the die parameters. We can define a minimum thickness for our crowns. And we can choose the preferred angle and height of our dies. The depth of the ditch and margin angulation can be modified as well. Now let's click on Build Denture. And as we see, we have our denture base with thimbles. We can always go back to Edit and modify our denture. So let's do that and go to the retention type connection. I would always advise putting the retention height on 0 since there is usually no need for extra retentions, especially if you use the total proc system. Minimum thickness and ditch depth are being covered by these parameters. Here we have our denture base with the alveolus connection, which is usually my preferred type. And then, thirdly, we have merged, or basically, unify your base and teeth into one single object, which we can mill, 3D print, or use as a wax-up for another module. Additionally, there is also the option to right-click on a tooth and then define it via that and combine different connection types. Make sure to deactivate Apply to all teeth. Okay, we switch back to retention and then do the same for the lower jaw, activating it on the bottom left. Once we have our upper and lower dentures generated, we go next. Let's talk about the connectors. For this patient, as our posterior elements are already connected, I would advise leaving the anterior teeth individual since it is better for aesthetics, nicely separated, and very easy to handle. If, however, you would like to apply a connector, you right-click on the tooth and you can add a mesial or distal connector. We click on the connector and activate the circular type. Shift and scroll let us scale it, and with the left mouse we move it into position. However, if you connect your teeth manually like that, you always have to make sure that there is enough room for your milling machine to enter and to mill out the interdental areas which are being inserted into the gingiva base. This is not a concern if you 3D print. In this case, however, we are just going to delete the connector again, and we stick to the separated anterior teeth. So we click on Finish, and the denture is being finalized. Now we can click on Save, and everything will be placed into our archive folder. Okay, we switch back to the archive, and we see we have all the files right here once again. That's it for the regular denture. Now we switch over to the other case I have prepared. To save you some time, I have also a pre-made setup which we can open up. As you see, the setup also functions as a scene. It starts directly in the construction type selector. So for this case, we have an antagonist and also some scan markers. To start off, we go into the Denture module and then do your blockout. Don't block out the undercuts and go next. Now I draw my margin like I would for a Predau bridge. I usually always tend to be a little bit narrower with these, which saves us some time later on in the workflow. We generate our gingiva. Once that is done, we jump into modeling to freeform it. Let's first adapt the teeth to the model and remove some excess material. It's going to be incorporated into the wax-up. Now I switch back to gingiva. Now we can just start freeforming our gingiva to our liking. This time, I won't exaggerate, but I still speed it up. After that is done, we click on Next. Now, for the connection type, we're going to choose dies, and I increase the die angle and the ditch depth a little bit. Then I'm going to remove Apply to all teeth and right-click on this tooth to activate Merge. Control plus left-click to copy it onto the other posterior teeth. We build our denture, or at this stage, our wax-up. So we have our bridge with anterior thimbles and separated crowns. Click on Next and ignore the next step to go directly to Finish. From here, we save. Saving is always obligatory for Continue Working to be accessible. And now click on Continue so we can adapt our restoration. For that, open up the Dies and Implants module. I'm going to switch to Implants at the top left and add an implant from the library. I will explain the implant library in a separate video in more detail. Here, I will just choose a system, confirm it as conical tie base on implant, and select the scan marker. Now we can match all our markers. The comfortable part is that I can do it all in one step. Then I'm going to click on Emergence Profile so we have the chance to modify them if we want. First, we define for the software the tooth number for each implant. I will continue and go Next. Minimal thickness around the tie base will be generated. And now we get the possibility to adapt our wax-up. So we can either adapt the anatomic teeth from the setup, or we can adapt the gingiva file. So in this case, we are going to use the latter. Left-click and adapt. We also have the possibility to input some adaptation parameters if we want. Once our wax-up is adapted, we can click on Apply and start by freeforming it. We smooth around the tie base connection and shape our basal area. Okay, then we double-check with the model to make sure we apply a bit of pressure on the tissue and the basal area is ovate. Once happy with the design, we can continue. Choose Screw Retained, or you could also make abutments or a bar underneath. Click on Next. Now there are these screw channel functionalities where we can change the diameter or incline them if needed here. We ignore this and the next step and go directly to Finish. As you can see, the crowns have been adapted to the screw channels as well. You can also deactivate that via right-click. And then once again, we click on Save for all the files to be transferred to the archive. So as you have seen, the Denture module is quite powerful and can be used in many different ways. During these tutorial series, we will come back to it for many different workflows. Thank you all for watching, and let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. I wish you all a great rest of the week and see you next time. Goodbye.